Namaskar and welcome to 50 years of emergency in depth and in person. Today we have writer Mr. Paul Zacharia, who was in Delhi those days of that 2 years and saw all the activities of Delhi very closely. A lot of us back, I was a student then in Kerala, a lot of us woke up to the realities of emergency after he wrote an article when Janata Party came, I think the first or second month, almost calling Keralites who voted for Congress kind of frog in the well people. Let's start with that article.
Okay. Yeah.
What was the provocation for that article? Because, you were seeing a lot of things in Delhi, and then you found that the South India, especially Kerala, fully endorsing emergency. Was it that frustration which made you write that article?
It was that frustration on the one side, and I think, all the pent-up emotions about the censorship, about the terrible things that happened during the emergency, and there was a censorship, and nobody would dare to break the censorship, and it's all private conversation. You vent your unhappiness, your anger. So once the emergency was over, and then to discover that Malayalees had voted en masse for Indira Gandhi all over again. You and I belong to Kerala. And to know that our society, the Kerala society, had behaved so foolishly, politically foolishly, that was upsetting. And as a writer, my only recourse is to write about it. I mean, I'm not a speaker, I'm not that sort of debater or anything. So I wrote the article into which I think maybe some of it was wrong, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was over emotional, but I did write that, and it created some sort of a big, a small storm in Kerala's readers' circles. Because I remember that, famous writers like Keshav and all came out against me. I don't know, they must have been, but surprisingly, Keshav was not a congressman, he was a left man. And many people from the left also shouted at me for that. I don't understand this. But all that I said was that the title of the article was the mayalokam would mean in the fantasy land of Malayalees. That is what I said. Meaning something like Malayalees live in a sort of political fantasy. That was the name of the article. So it was anger and frustration, certainly.
Yeah, that of course you went anger. So, but behind that anger was what you saw in Delhi. So, what was it
Yes.
like? What did you see in Delhi that 2 years? What was that suffocation all about? Because we were a democracy and we had free speech. Of course, censorship was declared and it was practiced. And then came this whole thing of Sanjay Gandhi, the extra constitutional authority. So, what was it exactly which angered you so?
It didn't even go into detail. Sanjay Gandhi's and so many others, not only Sanjay Gandhi, several other people were extra constitutional authorities. And that wasn't the real thing, because the emergency was a totality. So what I felt most terrible about emergency was the atmosphere of fear, that you were not living in a free society anymore, that you are not a free citizen anymore, that all your fundamental rights have been cancelled or whatever, and you could be arrested at any point without notice or without anything, and the freedom of expression is gone, and political freedom is gone. So therefore, basically, it was the atmosphere of fear that people whispered only things, or in close circles, people vented their anger, etc., etc. So other details are so many, which are all historically recorded, like the demolition of, all the demolition activities that Sanjay Gandhi and so many other cronies. I wouldn't say that it was all Sanjay Gandhi's doing. It was the doing of so many people. And so all that is normal, usual details. But an emergency of that kind, which Indira Gandhi imposed on India, basically told me that as an Indian citizen, I was no more a free citizen at all. And that happened under she had abolished the constitution, I think, if I remember right. So even under the British rule, I don't think we were, why do I say I don't think, we were simply not this unfree. So this was the first time in the history of the recent history of 200, 300 years of India that some people had become so totally prisoners of a so-called democratic system that had been put on its head and using some clause somewhere in the, I don't know, in the constitution or something, put on its head, and a few people, maybe a dozen people, had taken charge of this nation. This was a thing. So emergency was a period of fear. Unless you were ready to become a martyr, go to jail, die there, or get tortured, or get shot, or get driven over by a truck. Or, it happened. Such things also happen. You are killed on the road. So anything could happen. So if you were ready to be a martyr, that's a different thing. I was not ready to be a martyr. So this is what it was. Fear and the sense that your citizenship, being an Indian, didn't count anymore. That was it.
Okay. So it is, as a creative person, in fact, soon after that, O.V. Vijayan came out with his book, which was mocking emergency and the psychophants.
Yeah.
So as a creative person, what was the impact on you in your writing? Because, could you write freely those days, or you're waiting for an occasion so that this is over?
Charian, during the emergency, I put into my fiction, I introduced shades of my opposition. I could not write a political article and condemn the emergency or anything. And in fact, nobody would publish it also. Even if I wrote it, I don't think anybody would have, because of the censorship, anybody would have published it either. And there was no Facebook or no internet or social media or anything. So the whole business of creatively, what happened was that I did my muted resistance through my fiction. I could not write. I was writing a column on a Delhi column for Kala-Kaumudy in those days. I think once a week or twice a month or something like that. And in that also, I used to smuggle in a few things that I hoped would sort of help people understand what was going on and what emergency was. But what I smuggled in went in a few times, and then the editor will call me up and tell me that, look, I think we'll have to move that out. So in my personal case, what happened was that I was not a highly political man in those days before emergency. I was looking at all the crazy things the politicians did, their corruption, their high-sounding words, their terrible ways of oppressing the people and their contempt for people and democracy. All that I was noticing, and I was being a usual citizen, somebody like R.K. Lakshman's common man. I was helplessly watching all this. But after the emergency, once I went through that, my entire personality as a writer changed. After that, I was never again apolitical. I personally believe that if I lift my pen, after the emergency it happens, if I lift my pen, there has to be politics in it. It has done good things and done terrible things. So the future of our children is in the hands of our politicians. So you can't neglect politics anymore. I became very political after the emergency, and I became very conscious of my rights as a citizen. I became very conscious of freedom, of democracy, of the value of all these things, secularism and all that came during the emergency. There was no non-secular activities as far as I know. I don't know. I don't know the detail. But as far as democracy, etc., is concerned, I became a new man, a new citizen of India after emergency. I was totally politicized in my thinking, in my attitudes, and in my writing. That is what happened.
No. When you say politicize, you mean to say that you understood the importance of politics in a democratic society. Is that you mean, or any party attitude? Because a lot of people become anti.
No, it had nothing. Yes, you are right. I understood the importance of when I said politicized. I became democratized. That's what I should say. I became more of a conscious and conscientious citizen. Also, I was not taking part. I was not part of any party, and I think it goes against real political thinking to be part of a political party, because each political party in India, I don't know about other countries, each and every one of the political party is either corrupt or anti-democratic and contains very strong dictatorial tendencies within itself. I have not known Indian politics which is not dictatorial, whether it is in the south or whether it is in the north or whether it is in this state or that state or at the central. Dictatorial tendencies are hidden behind democracy. In fact, democracy is used to capture power and assert your dictatorial power over the ordinary man. So when I said politicized, I became aware of this. And I think it goes against the grain of any honest man to join a political party. You have to vote for a political party.
Yes.
Because you have to create a government. It is our duty as a citizen to vote, whether it is X, Y, or Z party. At that point of time, you sort of weigh the pros and cons and vote for it. I think it's a crime not to vote. That's it. That is my primary decision.
So for you as a person, that's the biggest democratic lesson which you learned thanks to the emergency, is it not?
Yeah, thanks to emergency. But it's a terrible lesson. It's a terrible lesson and a terrible lesson for India. I don't think India has learned the lesson. At least I, as a poor man, I learned it.
Okay. So then, you also told me once that soon after the emergency, filmmaker Aravindan called you up to say that he was a Gnostic before, and now, and he never thought emergency will be lifted, and now he become a believer. So, was it that helpless, that 2 years? It shows.
Yes, it was terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. And Aravindan didn't say it because he never became a believer. He said, it looks like we will have to become believers since this has happened, he said. So that's what he said. So it is that. I mean, it is unimaginable and frightening. And you felt so hopeless. You really didn't want to, go on living here, or whatever. It is a horrible scenario where you cannot open your mouth, where you cannot speak freely, where, I never understood what freedom of expression is till emergency came and said, you have no freedom of expression, it's all blocked. So, to live without that primary freedom and without other freedoms that we are used to enjoy, it's unbelievable. But maybe for an ordinary citizen who doesn't need many of these freedoms to express himself, etc., etc. For an ordinary villager in UP or in Kerala, in one of the deep country villages, I don't know if they felt the same because their lives continued to be the same.
Okay.
Maybe there were some improvements also. Maybe like the officials, Kerala government, he could get work done from an official in the government without paying a bribe. Things like that was there. So to that extent, perhaps the ordinary citizen really thought this is a good thing to do. Maybe that is one of the reasons why they vote for Indira Gandhi after the thing, because people must have been, I think, yeah, I'm glad I thought of that. People must have been sick and tired of the bureaucracy, and if something would make the bureaucracy react properly to you as a citizen, then people thought, well, this is it. This is all we need. It must be. I mean, I'm just figuring it out.